There's been some recent talk about engagement in housing. Is it going down? And if so, what should we do about it? I've got a few ideas that might sound bad at first, but could actually be just what housing is looking for. Folks who suggest there is declining housing engagement often point to empty, undecorated neighborhoods, entire guilds not even touching housing, and fewer social media posts and housing competitions. And the suggested solutions are tie housing to player power, make houses garrisons 2.0. The question is, are they right? Anecdotes are fun, but to be confident, a bit of data is handy. First data point, the Kia Discord, one of the largest housing communities around, and where you'll find some of the most engaged housing players. Here I looked at daily posts in the interior build sharing channel for 3 different Wednesdays. I figured posts can be a sign of housing engagement. 2 weeks before Midnight's launch, 76 posts. About a month after launch, 54 posts. So, a drop. And then after the 0.5 patch, back up to 74. Here, engagement seems to be holding, but it's just one source. Let's check another. Likes on builds posted to the Housing Hub. And here, things start to get interesting. There's a massive difference in the number of likes for older builds compared to the popular recent builds, even though build finesse has probably increased. The fact that the older builds have been around longer doesn't fully explain it, because the Housing Hub sorts these so that for the most part, you won't see a new build after a week or so. So less people are liking the posts. Seems like some evidence for declining engagement. Let's look at one more, my own channel data. These 2 videos have similar daily performance, but the one posted in January has almost double the day 1 views than the one posted in May. It does suggest that there are fewer people browsing housing content right now. For these last 2 data points, some of this could be due to content saturation. More creators, more places to go to find housing content. But I don't think that fully explains the difference. So what am I saying? Well, if this is the entire WoW player base, and this is all the players that could be interested in housing, then this is the housing mains. We're not seeing a difference in engagement here, but we are seeing a decrease here. Does this match your experience? If the housing 1% are fine, but we're losing ground on those who could be here, what's the solution? Is it really more functionality in houses and forced engagement from player power? Before we talk solutions, we need to make sure we're solving the right problem by asking, why are players less engaged? If we understand that, we can target solutions instead of guessing. Even with what we've just looked at, we've already got some clues. Think back to when housing first released. If you pre-ordered Midnight, you got access in patch 11.2.7 on December 2nd, 2025. And it felt like housing exploded. Why? I've got 2 suggestions. Hype and time. Housing was brand new. We'd been waiting for it for forever. And there was this flurry of Blizzard promotions and events, and it felt like everyone wanted to get in on it. The other factor, time, was just as important. It was the final patch of the expansion. Everything else was winding down, we were finishing off meta achievements, killing raid bosses for mounts, and generally tying things up for the end of the expansion. Housing was the best feature WoW had released in ages. And what else were you gonna do? Let's keep those 2 things in mind. Hype and time. Now let's look at today. What's changed? I asked folks in the I could be engaged in housing but I'm not right now, and the all I do is house camps. And their answers are surprisingly similar. WoW is a game that many of us have played for over a decade, and stayed because it keeps our attention. A new expansion brings new raids, new dungeons, new Mythic Plus and PvP seasons, achievements, reputations, collections, and all of the things that have kept us logging in for years. And that hasn't changed. Just because housing arrived doesn't mean you stopped enjoying the rest of the game. And some of it is time sensitive. If you want to raid, you usually need to secure your spot early. Most of your guild will do M+ and PvP at the start of the season. This is just the rhythm we're used to. A new patch drops, and we go back to playing WoW the way we always have. Housing is new, and will be there when you want to go back to it. But at the start of the patch, that's when you play regular WoW. And if you think this only applies to the I could be housing but I'm not crowd, it doesn't. As some of the longest standing players in the game, these are the same content cadences that have kept the housing obsessed playing as well. So the real question becomes, how do we give people the time that they need to engage with housing? Here's the first idea that sounds bad, but could actually be great. Delay the release of major housing content patches. I know. It sounds like I'm Oliver Twist, and instead of saying,
"Please, sir, I want some more,"
I'm saying, "Please, sir, I want less." But hear me out. It's not about less, it's about when. We've just talked about how when a major patch drops, even the most ardent housing fans are off doing everything else they love to do in WoW. So what if one of the 0.5 or 0.7 patches became the housing patch? The 0.0 patch could launch the raid and the seasons and all the rest of it. And then later, when things naturally slow down, that's when the major housing content arrives. I get that it sounds like I'm relegating this big, evergreen, flagship feature to what can feel like a filler patch tier. But what if this gave housing the space it needs? Instead of players feeling like they need to make a choice, or not make a choice and being completely overwhelmed, as raiding and dungeoning and collecting died down, what if housing was right there, happy to welcome them home? I've extolled the virtues of this perspective, but let's acknowledge the risks. How would the delays be perceived? Would the Blizzard decision makers see the move as devaluing their investment in housing? Here's my counterpoint. This is when housing was released, and it was massively successful. This isn't downgrading housing. It's aligning the content cadence with player behavior. And done right, it could actually increase prestige and attention. Imagine, as players sigh with relief as raid dies down, they've hit their goals for the patch, they look around, and instead of finding the next game to play, they think, it's housing time. Yes, business time! It becomes a new part of the rhythm of how we play WoW. First we do the War of Warcraft, and then we house. Would players see the pushback content as Blizzard failing to deliver? Would those who devour housing content voraciously be frustrated that their favorite features are being delayed? And what about hype? Would new patch excitement fade? Like if more money troll content arrives in 12.1, by the time the 0.5 or the 0.7 patch comes around, would anyone care that it's coming to housing? So make your voice heard. For those who care deeply about housing, is the timing change worth it? Before you decide, let's have a quick chat about the patch options. Starting with the 0.5 patch. From what I'm seeing, this is the patch where people are starting to wrap up their major goals, even if it's partway through. So timing the major housing patch here helps people transition to their new activity, housing, once they're done. The potential downside is the lack of time for PTR testing. If we're all busy in the 0.0 patch, pursuing our goals, will we take the time to test? If the major housing patch released in the 0.7 patch, we'd be in a better position to test, and this is when housing dropped for early access. So it's worked before. The question is this too late to keep people engaged? Will they have already moved on to non-WoW activities? But what if there was a third option? Time for the second, this sounds bad, but it could be a good idea to increase engagement in player housing. Timegate content releases. It sounds so perfect when you say it out loud. Right now, housing aficionados are running out of Décor budget. Some have even stopped building because their house is full. Even if we're getting new Décor, they can't use it. This is because all available housing levels drop with the patch. What if it was more spread out? We'd get a large chunk of the budget for the big housing patch and smaller boosts for the others. Then we'd have the budget to play with the new decor we get. What if I told you this was the original plan and we kind of ruined it? When Endeavours first released, they gave less XP. It got increased because we, the player base, almost insisted upon it, and our lovely responsive housing team listened. This dramatically changed when we earned new housing levels. With the original XP amount, an interested but not totally maxing it out decor collector would have earned enough Endeavour XP to get a new housing level each minor patch. Perfectly timed for playing with the new decor. So all that extra XP that we were kindly given, it's possibly the reason we don't have nicely timed releases of decor budget when we need it. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. Should decor budget increases be timed with decor drops? Just before you decide, how would being able to save your house factor in? If you could build 2 rooms you love, keep one in your house, and save the other for when you get more budget, would that change your thinking about when you need new budget drops? I do have one request from the housing team here. Before you give us the import-export feature, please give us more stored decor budget. Because if we're already starting to push up against the new increases you gave us, how much more so if we can create multiple versions of max budget houses? Now we've got all the pieces to make a decision about how the timing and pacing of housing releases could increase housing engagement. But before I give you my thoughts, I've got one more seemingly bad idea that might just work. I'd like less housing related content. Genius, right? But seriously, when the 0.5 patch launched, every single new activity came with housing decor, which means that if you wanted all of the decor, even just for the XP, you had to do all of it. And this was the patch where people were saying, if it's too overwhelming, just do the parts that you like. But what if you're obsessed with housing and you must have all the things? It makes being a housing main one of the most time-intensive ways of playing the game, because we have to do everything. And then there's the new currency. If you love a money troll decor, you better love you some abyssal anglers, because those babies are not cheap. Instead, could we just make all of the housing decor of an expansion have one currency? I honestly haven't cared about the currency bloat, but when decor requires a new currency, then we have to grind that specific content if we want lots of that decor. Sure, make us do it once to unlock things with achievements, but then let us use the standard expansion currency to buy the many multiples we might want. This is another way to give us back time that we could put into building our house instead of farming content we don't enjoy. With everything on the table, here's where I land on all of it. I do think we should delay major housing releases. We've seen that housing works best when players have the time and space to enjoy it, for both the housing casuals and the hardcore houses. I also think the best timing is the 0.5 patch. Remember whose engagement with housing has actually dropped? It's the people who don't have housing as their first priority. A 0.5 release brings the hype of the new thing they're looking forward to, rather than catching up on old content. And this brings up what is probably the most important point. For housing to be successful, to continue for years to come, we want more people engaging with it. So when we're thinking about the direction of housing, let's not just think about our preferences, but what would help our friends and guildies join us in this thing that we love. Encouraging people to engage with housing means making space for newbies and pros alike. Even if you can't control when content comes out, you can control how you respond when someone makes a post in your community for the very first time. You can plan fun events that make getting into housing feel less intimidating. And you can invite people around to hang out in your house and jump around while you chat, instead of running circles around the major expansion city. The more people feel welcome, the more they'll stay. And if you're the one looking for more housing friends, check the description for a list of Discords, streams, and websites that might help you find your people. Those are my thoughts. What about yours? Do you need more time to engage with housing? Would any of these changes help? Did I get it all wrong and you have a much better idea? Tell us about it in the comments. Let's get the conversations happening. And while you do, please be kind. Let's debate ideas, not people. A different kind of video from me today, so genuinely, thanks for visiting, and see you later.